Hello everyone. I'm at the factory. Angela-Gilbert Young, she's behind the camera.
Hello!
Today we're going to show you a few things and talk about how, as you all knew him previous, Gilbert Young, Angela-Gilbert Young now, does what she does and why she does it. So today there's a Lab 12 integrated amp. This is about a $4,000 Canadian amplifier, single-ended, KT 150 tubes. They say it's about 15 watts a channel. Actually, it's about 10. In fact, I think you'll agree with this, Angela. Everything we've measured in the last 5 years, whatever the specs were from the factory in their books, they were much lower than that in real life. Agreed?
Yeah.
So the reason they do that is promotion, accounting, business model. They want to make sure that they have the maximum amount of wattage, and they stretch the truth, as they all do. We don't do that, but that's not a better or worse thing. It's just that's the competition and the marketing that we see today. This Lab 12 is no different. It's really about 8 to 10 watts per channel in a single-ended triode mode. So this is one tube, one preamp tube, one output tube. There's a main power supply, 400 volt power supply, feeding and lighting up these tubes, giving them power to operate. It also, this big transformer, you'll see this pipe full of capacitors. I mean, it's long. And it is support energy, because this amplifier is good enough. Let's say it has enough. The skeleton or the basics of this amplifier and its circuits are not convoluted enough that we can aid it. Not every amplifier you have us look at or send to us, and we will do anything that's out there, provided its basics are good enough to benefit. And now, this one, we have two different lines coming in here, one for left and one for right, which supports, on these connectors at the back, 10 times the original energy that normally works in the signal path. This is on the B positive for this left side and this right side. The difference in the sound output is staggering, as you would think any amount of energy is. When energy goes into these amplifiers in the line stage and the output stage, it gives the music a lot more density. So if it's denser and fuller and there's more energy, 10 times the amount readily available for a little first step, and then support the music while it's continuing, or its weight, bloat, or thickness, and then its decay can linger longer because it doesn't dissipate. Also, when you add large amounts of energy, contaminations between left and right side are they're less, because the pool that we're mixing the left and right in is much larger. So the little particles in the pool, it's a bigger pool, less particle contamination. These are your output transformers, and they're humming. They're a bit noisy E-transformer, which they often do. The amplifier sounds good at syrupy, like tubes are. We like tubes because they're like candy, like caramel. After a long period of life listening, I tire of them over time because you get like a cavity or zits. It's almost too much. But they're wonderful to give you that warm, comfy blanket sound. And when you add energy, they actually behave much more like I can listen to the candy or caramel longer with this than I can without it by quite a bit. So now, how would you, AG, be able to do this? You can't just throw in certain things like capacitors. Anybody could hook stuff to it, but would you benefit if you didn't know in the 35 years of work the things that you know, which is all about every single part inside and who made them, what their strengths and weaknesses are, when they're used in circuits, and also how their strengths and weaknesses change when they're wired in different properties and different arrangements. The only way you'd know that is you've done it. So you've taken apart hundreds of things, literally, and I've seen it and known it, and you never pat yourself on the back. That's not in you. It's not an artist prerogative. So when you're looking at all these things, you can screw up, people, and you can make mistakes, and you can get the circuit where you've made a benefit, but you've also done some damage. The way that you have to know how these circuits work is, like I say, understand them, and then understand who manufactured each of the parts inside and what their tendencies and tolerances are. We went over this not long ago with a Roland Design Group amplifier pair of mono blocks, and it had a small input device that drove the input, and it was worth 60 cents. At the time we did it, I was like, well, that's a 20,000 euro amplifier in 2000. And the same thing's in a Rega Brio you mentioned. And I said, well, that is a $1,199 full Canadian retail. And you said, not only that, there's more of them in the Brio. And these are the things that we notice and we see, because Angela-Gilbert has never, ever done this. We're doing this not to sell you stuff, just to show you. I want to show you how, maybe pat on the back someone who doesn't do it because they're an artist and that's what they do. I want you to know that all of these achievements are there and they're vast. We talked about a Bryson amplifier not too long ago that we improved to 4B, a remarkable, you'll see a video on it earlier, and I simply called you a week later, said I have a 3B and the same thing, and you said, well, the topology and layout is exactly the same. The problem is, at the distance of that transformer through output stage on the 3B, the voltage it's working at, that output IC will oscillate and blow up if I do that. Lower it to 45 volts, make it nice and warm sounding, clean up the connections like we did in there. And I said, well, it occurred to me after, and I said, the only reason you know that is you've done it with that part. You know it. These achievements are vast. You don't get paid for these things. You do it because the love of development, climbing these mountains, and understanding what, down to the bare bones, happens inside these electronics in all these circuits. There isn't any of these things yet I haven't had you not explain what's in them and exactly how they work, from the very beginning through to the very end, and where their little mistakes are, where their connection mistakes are inside, where their connection mistakes are at the back, where their solder joint mistakes are different, how dense the solder joint is. Did you let all the metal fall to the bottom, or did you keep it up where the line is? Because it matters. Music's a moving target. It's not a light. A functional connection simply won't do. So this amplifier was done for a gentleman. We're very happy to have done it. And these two power supplies will play some music, let you listen to it. We'll remove it. Hopefully you notice the difference. It's easy to notice in here. We're going to be using a very inexpensive little microphone.
It's the same mic that we have to use.
Yeah, we always use it.
Yeah.
People notice on some other stuff, so
So
maybe
it's a
we'll
good
notice
mic.
this here. So if you have questions or anybody wants to know about what can be improved or not, there hasn't been a design in the last maybe 8 or 9 years that I've stumped her on where she hasn't seen it, and send pictures of the inside. We'll have a look at it. We can see where all the errors are, and they're not errors. What they are is industry accommodations for price versus profit. And yours is performance first, price happens to be a residue after. You'll cover the cost of it, you'll make a little bit of money doing it, which is normal. But you won't use a dollar figure as a business plan to get out. I want this much money, and then I'm using audio, that's my tool. Well, that's basically a recipe for inferiority or failures in a lot of areas of the amplification, or certainly in the performance base of what we're trying to achieve. So when you achieve stuff like this, I want people to know what that takes in 35 years. And that we have discussed every drive, every resistor, every filter. You know who they come from, how they come from, right down to the capacitors. You pick the electrolytic, the dielectric, its casing, how stable it is, how fast or slow it may build, or like micro voltage rise, base plate voltage, fine measurement. Your measurements are off the charts, but you know that measurement will get you so far. And sterile accuracy certainly won't get you music. And letting certain components, the way they operate, be loose offers us musicality, dynamics, excitement, color, character. Those things matter too. So you've got an artist on one side, and they're correct. And you've got engineering basics, and they're correct as far as controlling the electron base that's the energy for music. The great ones can only do wonderful things and innovate when you use the two of them to the best of their ability. The only way you can do that is your 35 years tearing apart circuits, redeveloping, trying things that haven't been tried. I mean, you go back to, you've been using super caps and preamps and power amps since pre-2000. Most people don't even know what super caps are. They're like for computers and cars and store. There's little capacitors that are millions of times more powerful than any one of its same size capacitor. So these achievements you have are great. This isn't a DIY person that's doing these things. The development and build inside these is generally safer and better mechanically than anything in the whole amplifier in its entirety under design. You actually put things on that don't look DIY. They look like they're better than anything in the factory that was ever done. Like this would be the best soldering work and inside that's inside this entire amplifier.
I did have to fix a couple wire in there.
Well, and you always do that if you see danger. I've
Okay.
seen you do it with 120. I've seen you do it with circuits that you think are going to blow or potentially ground, make a mistake, hit a chassis, or be guided in an area where you've got noise over the line stage that you don't like. Remove hum, remove things that are overlooked because they can't do it cheap enough if they don't do that, if they don't make the mistake. So these manufactured and cut in things, they're perfect. They're not close to nice. They're unbelievably good. And these achievements and other things, we do this even in the smallest mod we do on a Yamaha for maybe $300. And we do it in all kinds of products we've done from Name. And the reason we've done Name and Yamaha so much is my store carries Name and Yamaha, and we wanted inexpensive stuff for beginners, which I remember when I asked you, can you make me an amplifier cheaper than $3,000? And you said, for you.
I said that?
Yes, you did.
Oh.
And I laughed my head off, but some 10 weeks later, you called me and said, I have an idea.
It wasn't 10 weeks.
I think it was. It was like 2 months.
That long?
Yep. And you were sitting there and you had these two ideas. One was, well, let me have a look at the 301 and I'll see if its bones or skeleton's good enough and maybe we can do something. And in a few weeks after having that and looking at its circuit topology, looking at how it operates, it wasn't a perfect amplifier. It's $599. But you found a method that moved the needle 50 or 60% for $300 Canadian. Then you said to me, for the FIU thing, was, will you let me do whatever I want on the amplifier? And I said, what does that mean? You said, well, I have to purge artistically. I have to, it's like having diarrhea. And I said, you got to stop everything when you have an art urge and go diarrhea yourself with art? And you said, yes. And you said, by the same token, if you make me make art right away, I'll get hemorrhoids because I can't force it out. And I thought that was funny and it made sense. So you were asking for a way to vent your artistic drive on the front of an old case. So you'd take old receivers that we'd find in the garbage and you'd gut them and you'd keep maybe a huge surround sound heat sink. And we've got all these crazy painted things that aren't for everybody, but they're beautiful. And the more you know about you and the way your mind works and the way you've achieved over 30 years, people will want them because you sign and date them and they have a touch of your art and they're all one-of-a-kind integrated amplifiers. You said, well, I have 30 years of parts where I've got transformers, I've got line stages, I've got outputs, and I want to use all these because I can't use them in our production models.
And I can't stand wasting things.
That's true too, you're a minimalist. So there was a lot of benefits there, so you overlooked the making of a $3,000 or $4,000 amp. You said, oh, I'll make a funky for $1,500, it'll be low powered, and I'll make one for $2,500 and it'll be a little higher powered. And they're basically our $3,000 and $4,000 amplifier. And the reason you don't overcharge is you get to do something you love. Well, that's a gift to hi-fi and a gift to our people. And everyone that has one of these things knows
what I
that.
really love about doing funkies?
What?
I can save stuff and it's going to landfill.
Yeah, no, and you're same. The paints, the silicone, everything you use is basically trash. And that's a wonderful thing. It's not we're changing the world with a carbon footprint. What we are doing is something wonderful that suits your artistic drive and what blows your hair back and makes you happy and makes you be more creative when you're doing these things. Your brain, I noticed when we went to letting you out, letting you expose everything inside you and use it in your factory and get it to the people. When we did that your designs, you became more energetic, more energized. You were faster. You thought of things without convolution. You were very, very focused on where you wanted to go, and your art was stronger. You came up with some of our best designs. I-810 happened in that category. C312, A200 small amplifier. Our I-800 integrated baby amplifier came out then. The phono stages with and I push you because that's what I do. I piss you off most of the time. we had a 710 phono stage, and I said, well, we got a cap in here that's about half the size of this one, and it adds 500,000 capacitance. It's amazing. You take a phono stage and you're like, wow, it's 10 times better because I put this cap on. I said, well, would it be better if we didn't have these contacts and wires, and I made you put it inside? And you went, that was a fuck you again. You said, no, fuck you. Yeah, because you said you can't just put capacitors inside near a phono stage. You can bend the curve and you can do all these things to it. I have to address this in that proximity. But yes, there's a benefit because that energy now, this stuff isn't pressure, it's inducted. If it's sitting right there that far away from the board we're using, woohoo, we're going to have a big benefit. And oh yeah, I've got 3 connections in here, then I got 3 connections here, and I got 3 connections on the chassis lock inside, and then another 3 connections. I'm removing all those. Each one's a bad singer in the choir. Well, I get to go faster. These are the little things I want the public to know about you. I know that's a fair amount, but it gives you the idea. We'll try and do more videos for you on certain key things. There's been enough years now where I've had wow moments with you, and they happen weekly. And I want people to know about that.
As long as it's okay, because you can rewind. It's on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, you can rewind and go back and see about anything. That's right. And there's the most brilliant thing you've ever said to me, Mike, when you win one in a circuit or an attempt or an energy change, you can lose too. Excuse me, not always the case. But generally there's a give and a take. And what you're saying is if you filter something or hold something up, you can sit on it, but you lose dynamics or more detail. If you open up the detail, you can get some more distortions or make some other mistakes. And you're making a point that there's no one solution. Add capacitance is not a solution. It's what you don't tell them about all of those choices and all of these choices based on its entirety because you understand it.
And you know something else I remember?
What?
When I have my own Angela-Gilbert jump cat,
Mm-hmm.
you and a few people asked me, can I have this, can I have that, can I have that, can I have those in here and here and there?
That's not the way it works.
No!
Yeah.
It's not like the more the better.
That's right.
You need to know where to put it, how much to put it,
Yes.
how much to mix it. It's like cooking a steak. It's not like more sauce is better.
Right.
Just the right amount and where
It's
to put it.
like any great recipe in a circuit. And this helps you decide how to do this in the order that you do, correct?
Yeah.
This changes
Yeah.
from amplifier to amplifier.
That's why I have to look at it, at least the picture, before I decide whether it's or not worth doing it. I have just recently rejected a proposal because this customer wanted me to improve his preamp.
Yeah.
Then I said, no, it's just way too much this logic stuff, and it's not going to improve.
Excuse me.
Not worth putting money in it.
That's right.
And by the time I have to do my reverse engineering and R&D, he might as well just buy a new one.
Yeah, this is simple, so it's easy.
Yeah.
That goes back to our name video that I did, and I showed the 244 connections in the logic circuit so we can go click, 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 click to move inputs. Had we just had a switch on it, we get rid of those 400 bad connections, those 240 times 2. And all the parts inside of it, 100 parts are better.
Yeah, but
Crazy amounts.
They need to do convenience for the new people.
Convenience meaning idiot light when you hit input change?
I didn't say that.
Well, I did. We used to call that, this is a standard phrase in the industry. It basically means, why do we have 9 inputs now? I love that we had the vinyl boom, because now we've changed it and the streamers have come out. Wonderful. That's the combat the vinyl. So you've got an analog input and a digital input. And the digital input on your phone that's being controlled by everything has all your sources in it in one anyway. So now you need 2 inputs, 1 digital, 1 analog. Maybe you need 3. That's why we make most of the amplifiers at 3. It's logical. We're doing less contamination. Just do 3. Don't do 5. Don't do 8. Certainly don't have it where I got a remote that flips them, because that requires logic circuits. And the signal path, the left and right jacks that are in here, go through absolutely every one of those parts. And we know when we bypass the tone controls on any amplifier in the world that sounds better, that's just 2 of the parts. Can you imagine removing 120 more? We've seen and heard these things work. They're obvious. A lot of what you do is common sense, because you know you'll choose a correct performance path over a marketing path in a New York minute. And that is why you're different. You're not guided by the almighty dollar. You don't need or want it. I think it actually would be, as you've said before, a stumbling block. money as a guide is a block to you. It's in the way. It makes everything not work. It's not art. It's not beautiful. There's nothing that's going to make people cry or be happy in front of their music and not buy other things and not lose money anymore because they've lost money all their lives. You get in the audiophile thing. I don't know how many audiophiles are out there that have bought one system and stayed with it, but I could count them on my hand. Usually it's between 3 and 5 full systems. They lose when they sell. They don't count the losses because internally it hurts to count those darn things. Everything that I've sold from you trades so far in the first 3 years at full value. No loss. I must be out of my mind. But your stuff's so good, it resells, and I'll just say, all right, there's no tax on this one. I'll take a 13% loss, and I say, here you go, somebody. You got an awesome deal. I'm obviously not driven by money either. Part of the reason we saw each other, we communicated, and I protected what would be the smartest overall logic mind with art guiding it, with the most amount of effective performance that she can muster that no one else can, and they can't see it. You imagine what really can't be imagined. You see what can't be seen. And that's rare and wonderful and beautiful. And Angela was the reason for that, with Gilbert as the engineering, hard, good math, good measurement, good sensibility build. Plus, you've got delicate hands for soldering, yet bull strong for manufacturing and cutting and doing what you need to do, and an understanding of machining, mechanical, electrical, all the gifts you'd need to build the perfect person to help you design something in a vast category, not just do one job for one company and sell that and okay, then I got to figure out another way. To see and do it all, you've achieved. People need to know these things. I know we're in a factory that's minimalist. I know there's a lot of stuff in here. I mean, these aren't very expensive. I think they're worth $10. You could get them at Goodwill, for crying out loud.
You can't get them at Goodwill anymore.
Well, not anymore. Remember, 10 years ago, you used to find speakers all over the place? I remember I bought a pair of Sabos for $10. Canadian Sabos with oak finish, beautiful.
Yeah, those days are gone.
Yeah, I know. Those days are gone. But the point is, in this factory and the things that you do, you don't waste. And why would you play on cheap, inexpensive speakers that you could find anywhere? Well, you do it because if you can move the needle on those, it's a lot better. Anybody can make a gorgeous pair of $10,000 speakers sound good. They start off pretty good. So you test and do things for real reasons. These are good speakers. I mean, you've got some other things that are good speakers. And you own everything of note in hi-fi at the bleeding edge of performance that's pretty much ever been made. If I go on your barn, every major name I can think of from the 70s forward that were of note, movers and shakers, stuff that changed the landscape. You've owned them, check them out from front to back, find out how they work, and you didn't do it quickly and walk away. You use them all the time. And I think you do things like this because it keeps your brain fresh. Your creative brain and the part that is make you most effective. You know that this is where your biggest strength is. Totality. So let's play some music. That's been a long discussion about it, but I can't talk enough about you because we don't talk enough about you.
Discuss? Who you discuss with? You just talk.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to some music, some jazz on there. I'll have you throw on some tunes, and then I guess we'll pull these power supply, the capacitor bank, and compare it with and without energy.
I am putting the camera back on the tripod so we can actually...
All right, and I'll bring the mic over and we'll set it up so it's pointed at the speakers. How does this little puck go? Oh, that's cute. I lean it this way. I got it. I don't think... How's that?
Press it down so it won't slide. Okay, turn on some music.
Okay. Please. Loud enough? with and without. On the solid state stuff, I can go back in, but this at 400 volts, we don't want to arc and go back in hot swap. We don't want to do damage to anything. And
Not in front of the camera anyway.
yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, we could arc it without you here. The spark's shocking. I've done it before with 300 or 400 farad caps, and it'll wake you up.
Yeah, I remind you that all the time.
I know. In the store at Absolute Sound, when I'm doing it, I can actually hot swap 90% of our stuff, but it's an effective AB. Did you hear the two? I heard it.
Yeah.
Which and hopefully you can too. A little bit of difference in dynamics, focus, thickness. Basically, the music is with more energy, has a quicker first step, and has more sustained mass during all tones, and then it decays a little slower or fully longer, like the signal would ask it to. So if a violin's going to finish, it'll finish as long as it is supposed to in the recording, not beforehand because it ran out of a little bit of energy. And then the last benefit is the abundance of energy decontaminating our amplifier. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Really, I just wanted to get across how wonderful AG designs and brain and achievements are, and that we're all very, very lucky to have her. Bye for now.
Am I shutting it off now?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for listening, by the way.